So let's start. So welcome to this session. Maybe you can notice that I'm coming from France. I have this lovely French accent, and I'm part of the community team. And we asked our colleague David to give a session about what he did at home with his home assistant and what he can see in Canvas with all the things that he can track. So David, it's your turn. Thank you.
Sure. So hey everyone, my name is David Stickman. I'm a solution architect based in Paris, as you can tell from my French accent, obviously. So today I'm going to show you a little bit what I've built at home, which is a home automation system, which basically is fetching lots of data and pushing it into Elastic. So let's get to it. First, what is Home Assistant? I'm using Home Assistant at home. It's open source. It's a home automation services, which you can use on the Raspberry Pi, you can use on Docker, you can use on a lot of different things. Me personally, I run it on my NAS at home on Docker, and I've got tons of connection with Home Assistant, and I really love it. The beauty of Home Assistant, it has tons of different integration with a lot of different brands on the market for IoT devices. So for example, I've got an LG TV, and so if I tap LG, you can see there is the LG WebOS Smart TV connector. And when you click on it, you can see example of configuration files and things like that. So personally at home, I've got LG, I've got Z-Wave, which is IoT to manage my light settings, to measure movement at home, to measure luminance when there is movement, and a lot of different things. And so all of those data are going into a Home Assistant. And this is what my Home Assistant actually looks like. So this is literally the view that I have at home. And so you can see here all the lights that are controlled with Home Assistant. So I can, for example, turn on the light of my bedroom right now. So this is, I don't know if you've seen it, but the light is on. And when I click, the light is off. And I can do the same thing with Google because I did the connection on Google on my phone. So I can control my light from Google phone. I can do a lot of different things like that. So in terms of sensor, I've got multiple ones. So I've got this one, which is a motion sensor for the entrance. This is a door sensor to figure out if the door is open. And this is, I'm sorry for you, but it's in French. It's the temperature. It's in Celsius, so 22 degrees Celsius. It's actually really hot at home, it's almost the summer here, so it's getting better and better. So this is what I have, and this is what it looks like in Home Assistant per se. The beauty of Elastic is we have a lot of geek at Elastic. So Larry, he's working on the Kibana team. He's also into home automation. And so he built a publishing component for Home Assistant to publish all the different things from Home Assistant into Elasticsearch. So on top of the different connector that I have with my LG TV and things like that, I also have my Elasticsearch connector, which is shipping data into my Elasticsearch clusters for everything that's happening at home. So this is what it looks like. This is my discover view of my Home Assistant event indices. As you can see, for the last 15 minutes, I've got 48,000 documents, and each of those documents represent things from home. So it's got like geo information, it has battery information, if the device has battery, everything like that. So what I did is I created a bunch of search, so it's easier for me to figure out when something's happening. So here I've got like motion detected. If I click on this one, it's going to add the proper filter. So as attribute device slice motion. And if the value is 1, it means the device in question saw a motion. I can add also the attribute friendly name, which is easier. So here it's automatically telling me which is the device that saw the motion for the last time. And so that's the entrance, that's the corridor, that's the bedroom, and all the things like that with the different timestamp. So I've got, again, tons of different sensors at home. And initially, when I started building things, I built a dashboard to visualize all those data. So this is what it looked like historically. This has been my dashboard for like probably a year or so. And I have a heat map which represents when the light is on the different room. I've got the motion heat map where I detect motion on the different part of my home. And you can see at night, basically, there's no motion, obviously. Here I've got the luminance per room again. So this one is in lux. Here I've got the temperature on the different room in Celsius. I've got the download speed. So I'm using also a connector for doing speed test every 30 minutes. So I can figure out if I have a connection issue at home. This is my power consumption in kilowatt per hour. So this is basically like the dashboard to view pretty much what's going on at home. So it's nice, but I figured since we had Canvas, I can do something much cooler than that. And that's what I try to do. So this is the canvas that I build out, which basically is taking pretty much all the sensor information and displaying it in a much cooler way, I think. So this is when it shows up. This is the layout of my apartment. So here, this is my bedroom. I'm actually literally sitting here. Here, this is my kids' bedroom. This is the kitchen. This is the living room and all the different places. So you can view here the different motion sensors. So whenever there was a motion that was detected in this room, it's automatically picking. I'm adding this logo, and I'm writing the time where the motion was detected. So the last time was, oh, I'm sorry, it's again, that's military time, I think, for you. So it's 6:35 p.m. On the corridor, it's 6:38 p.m. The entrance, it's 6:37 p.m. and things like that. As you can see, I've got some light bulbs available here. And actually, when I click on it, it's automatically doing an API call at home. And this API call is turning on the light automatically. So
we can see that just behind you, actually.
Awesome. I forgot to put the refresh. So I'm going to put the refresh every 5 seconds. And so this is going to refresh my canvas every 5 seconds now. So it's going to do a SQL query on Elasticsearch to figure out the state. And then it's, as you can see, it actually changed the light bulb. I'm going to turn off the light. And in about 10 to 12 seconds, you should see the light bulb. It's going to change. I'm publishing things into Elasticsearch every 5 seconds from home. And with the refresh time of 5 seconds, sometimes it can be like 10, 12, 15 seconds maximum. So the light bulb is going to change. So now the light is off, and hopefully after this refresh, it should be off also. It should change to the off one. Oh, not good. It will at some point. How I do that is actually pretty straightforward technically. I'm doing a SQL query, and the SQL query is very, very straightforward. This is the expression that I'm using. So let's see it here. I'm going to maximize the editor. So actually, just I'm going to minimize it. It turned off, as you can see. I'm going to maximize it again. So here I'm doing the first thing is a time filter from now minus 30 seconds to now. So I'm getting just the last 30 seconds of all the documents. Then I'm doing a sum of the attribute power consumption from my Home Assistant indices, where the attribute friend name is Lumière Chambre Parent. This is typical French. It means literally light bedroom parents. Then I'm fetching the result of the cell. So I'm doing a get cell of the result here. And if the result is lower than 0.5, then I'm displaying this asset ID. If the result is something else, I'm displaying this asset ID. I'm just going to minimize the editor. And if you look at manage assets here, you're going to see the assets ID of the different image I uploaded into my canvas. So I've got several assets ID that are available. I've got light bulbs, I've got on and off, I've got Spotify, I've got TV, I've got a different asset ID that I'm using on the different view of my canvas. So this one I've done for one bedroom, and the beauty is I can actually save this as a new asset that I can then embed pretty much anywhere. So I can save this object. Let me just show you here. If I go on embed object, if I go on the add element, you can view that I created a custom element, which is the light home element. And this one is basically the save element of that. So this is literally this one. So this element has been saved, and I can save it using this drop-down filter. I can click on save as new element. I'm gonna put a name on it. I can upload an image, I can put a description, and then I can reuse this element pretty much anywhere. So once I've created this element, I can copy paste it pretty much anywhere on my canvas. And then I can just change the name of the room in my SQL query and be done with it. I know it's going to work pretty much anywhere. So this one is also a bit interesting. So again, I'm doing a SQL query on last motion. So here I'm taking the SQL query as last timestamp. The interval 2 hours is to manage UTC versus GMT +2, where I am. As last motion detected from Home Assistant, where the device class is motion and the value is 1, and the attribute friendly name is motion kitchen. And now I'm doing a markdown. I'm fetching the value and I'm formatting the date as hour, minute, and second. So whenever you do a pipe, actually, you can pipe into another function in Canvas. So here I'm fetching the result of the cell, and then I'm piping it into format date. And we use Moment.js as the library, and you can see how you can format date with Moment.js here. So this is basically how I set up this home monitoring. Again, it's the same thing for the sensors, for the temperature. I'm using really the same principle. As soon as I have data into my cluster, I can do a SQL query to fetch the information, and then I can change the image, I can change the label, I can do a lot of different things. So this is the first view of my home. This is the one where I can actually display the light bulb and things like that. This one is a bit different. As I mentioned, the Home Assistant has a connector for my TV. And so I can actually view what I'm currently viewing on TV in real time. So this represents what I'm viewing on TV for the last 1 week. So you can see I'm mostly watching Netflix. I'm watching a little bit of live TV, some Plex. Didn't play that much with my Switch. And mostly this is the TV channel I'm actually watching. As you're not French, it doesn't mean anything. That's the first channel, that's channel 2, etc., etc. Again, those pie charts are, again, SQL query from Home Assistant, basically. And just to show you the query in question, it's fairly easy. So again, I'm doing the time filter from 9 - 7 day to get 7 day worth of data. And here I'm doing the attribute of media title. I'm counting the title where the domain is media player and the content is playing, and the attribute friend name is LG WebOS Smart TV, and the source is live TV. So it means I'm watching live TV, and here I'm fetching the channel, the title of the channel as count, and then I'm doing a point series function as the media title count. I'm doing a pi on that, and the legend is automatic, and the palette of color that I've chosen is this one. So you can actually, whenever you modify something here, it's automatically going to modify it in the expression editor. Sometimes it's much easier actually to modify something on the color palette here rather than do it in the expression editor. This one is what I'm actually listening on Spotify. So this is, again, same principle. I'm doing a SQL query to get content from Spotify. So here I'm fetching the media title as title, the artist as artist, the album name as album, etc., etc. And so this is the SQL query. And then in a markdown for each rows, I'm displaying title, artist, album, and the device I'm playing the content on. This one is a bit tricky. It's actually pretty funny the way I do it, because the image itself is not available like that. So the image is available through an API call from my Home Assistant server. And so to display the image of the content, I kind of have to do a quick hack. So again, here I'm doing a time filter now -1 day. And here I'm doing my SQL query, which is a concatenation of 2 strings. So home.chickman.com, which is my Home Assistant server, which is going to serve the image. And here I've got the attribute picture, the entity pictures as pictures. And if you look at the data, so if I do preview of the data, this is generating pictures like that. And so with a token, which expires, and the cache value and things like that. So I can display this in, I can just copy paste this here, and you will see the image in question. So to embed this image into Canvas, I have to use the image assets. And instead of uploading the asset itself, I have to specify that the image is a URL. And here I do a get cell of pictures, which is the URL of the pictures, and then I do a pipe render. So the nice thing is if you have a web server, for example, you can easily set up the image on your web server, and then as the data URL, modify the image in real time in your Canvas very, very easily. Hope that makes sense for now. The next thing is Plex, what I'm actually watching at home. So this was literally my kids watching a movie, and you can see the movie is at 92%. So they pretty much finished the movie, and at what time it did finish. So again, I'm not going to go too much into details because this is kind of boring. It's again a SQL query on Home Assistant data, and then using Markdown to display it. This one is a bit different for my speed test. So the speed test is done again from Home Assistant. There is a component speed test, which is doing download and upload and ping every 30 minutes. And here, instead of using SQL query, I'm actually using timeline query. So here my query is actually a timeline query. For those of you that knows timeline, it's very efficient. You can, for time series data, you can fetch all the numerical information. So this is what my timeline query looks like. So this is my index Home Assistant. Let me put it in maximize, it's going to be easier. Here I'm getting object ID speed test download, and I want the average of the value that float, and the label is download in megabit per second. I'm doing the same thing in the same timeline, which is speed test upload this time, and the label is upload in megabit per second. The X in my axis is going to be the timestamp, the Y is going to be my value, and the color is going to be the label. So here, the funny part is the label is two different colors because it's two different labels. I don't pick the color itself, but I like this panel, so I'm keeping it this way. To display the ping in milliseconds, I'm doing another timeline queries, which is this one here. And on the first one, I'm not displaying the series style in the default style. So I'm not displaying the timestamp information. I'm displaying it only on the one for the ping. So I only have the ping, the timestamp available here and not on the two graph, because those are two separate graphs. So the ping is in milliseconds, and this one is in megabit per second. That's why I split it up into two separate graphical information. The last thing I've added really like a week ago or something like that is actually information from my cell phone. So on my cell phone, I've got the Home Assistant application, and the Home Assistant application is pushing data from my phone into Home Assistant. So here I can view which SSID I'm connected to. So I'm connected at home to my Stick Gold SSID. I'm using 5 gigahertz frequency. The signal strength for my Wi-Fi is minus 32 dBm, which is pretty great. The following, the speed from my phone to my Wi-Fi is 585 megabits per second. I've got this following IP, and the latest update was received at this time. So this one, again, very basic. I'm doing, I'm selecting has value as SSID, has attribute link.speed as speed, etc., etc. One thing which is very easy to do in the SQL query for Elastic, if you want to have only the last value, you can add the timestamp into the SQL query. Then you do an order by the last update, and you do from descendant order, and you limit to 1. So it's going to give me the last information available from the Wi-Fi. So the last update was pretty much right now. The battery level is very similar. So I'm getting the battery information from the sensor, and I'm getting the last information from the sensor. The one tricky thing about the battery is how I change the color and based on the battery value. So here, again, this is, I'm going to put it in maximize, it's going to be easier. So again, this is the SQL query to get the battery information. Here I'm doing a progress gauge. And here I'm changing the font based on the switch case. So if the case is greater than 66, the font, the color is going to be green. If it's greater than 33 and smaller than 66, it's going to be orange. And then the default is red. So if I'm lower than 33, then I'm going to have a red battery icon. And the same thing for the value color. I'm doing a switch case if it's smaller than 66, etc., greater than 66, etc. So to be honest, it's a bit tricky to do that, but once you have the template to do it, it's fairly easy to change the color and to change whatever you want here. So here I'm displaying map information. It's weird that it didn't go to the proper location because it should go from where my phone is. Okay, there we go. So this is, I don't know if for people that use Kibana a lot, you can create maps in Kibana. And since 7.6 in Canvas, you can embed maps directly into a canvas. So this is the location of my home. And here, this is the different information of the devices that have the Home Assistant application that are sending data back into Elasticsearch. And this is the battery value. So here, this is my cell phone, as you can see, 58% battery. This is probably my wife's cell phone, 87% battery. And this is a Nexus tablet that I use anyway. So it's pretty cool because you can embed the maps directly into Canvas, and then you can zoom in, you can do a lot of different things on it. This icon here is changing whenever I'm actually charging my phone or not. So again, I'm doing a SQL query to figure out if the phone is charging. If it's not charging, if it's charging to true, then I'm displaying this image, and else I'm displaying this image. So right now my phone is not charging. If I charge my phone, let's just, okay, this was very stupid of me.
Yeah, what happened?
I actually unplugged my laptop to plug my phone in, and that was very, very stupid. So let's just keep sharing. Obviously, it doesn't work. So I'm not going to do the demo of charging and plugging my phone. Really stupid of me, I'm sorry. So if I was charging my phone, automatically this icon would change and it would switch to this one. I don't know if we can see it. So I would use this one to consider that I'm charging my phone.
Anyway,
we are at the end pretty much. And that was the idea was to show you how when I plug my phone, it's actually changing the image to put a plugged phone instead of just the plug, which is unplugged basically. So that was basically what I wanted to show you is with Canvas, based on very funny condition, you can change images, you can change context, and you can build something pretty nice. Even though I'm not a web developer, as you can see, the UI is not a great thing for me. I think it looks okay. So that was pretty much it.